Hello, welcome to News Review from BBC Learning English. I'm Tom, and joining me this morning is Catherine. Good morning, Catherine.
Hello, Tom. Hello, everybody. Today's story is about athletics and it's from the Tokyo Olympics.
And don't forget, if you want to test yourself on the vocabulary that we study today, there is a quiz at the website bbclearningenglish.com. Now, let's hear more about this story from a BBC Radio News report.
The New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard is set to become the first transgender athlete to compete at the Olympics. The country's Olympic Committee has named her as part of the women's team for the Tokyo Games. Hubbard competed in men's competitions before transitioning in 2012.
So, an athlete from New Zealand is to enter the Tokyo Olympics. Laurel Hubbard is a weightlifter. She is also transgender. She was born male and identifies now as female. Hubbard is in the news because this is the first time a transgender athlete has competed in the Olympics. Hubbard will be on the New Zealand women's team. In the past, Hubbard has competed on men's teams, but this year it will be the women's team.
Now, we've got 3 words and expressions from the world's media that we can use to talk about this story, right?
Yes, we have trans, bruise, and polarizing.
Trans, bruise, and polarizing. Okay, let's get going. Catherine, can we have a look at your first headline, please?
Yes, we're starting here in the UK with The Guardian. The headline, trans weightlifter Laurel Hubbard set to make history at Tokyo Olympics.
Trans, transgender. Very important word for today's story. Catherine, what can you tell us?
Okay, trans, T-R-A-N-S. Yep, it means transgender. It's a short way of saying transgender. Let's look at trans. Its wider meaning is over, across, or through. We use it as a prefix, so you can talk about something like a transatlantic flight. If you take a plane from Europe to America or America to Europe, that's a transatlantic flight. It crosses the Atlantic Ocean. If you travel across Russia by train, you're probably on the Trans-Siberian Express, the train that travels all the way across Russia. And we use it in words like transfer or transmit to talk about going from one place to another. So, back to transgender. If you change your gender or you have a gender, a sex that you feel is not the one you were born with, so you're a man who then lives as a woman, or you were born a woman and you live as a man, you are transgender. Now, that's a very simplified way of explaining transgender. There are a lot of details and issues around transgenderism, which we don't have time to go into today, but trans is short for transgender. And that's a brief summary of what it is.
Okay, so transgender people, they kind of feel that their true nature or gender identity doesn't match the sex that they were given at birth.
Yes.
Can you give us some examples of when we could use trans or transgender, though, in a sentence, Catherine?
Sure. So in the case of Laurel Hubbard, we can say Laurel Hubbard is a transgender athlete, or we can shorten it and say Laurel Hubbard is a trans athlete. Or we can say Laurel Hubbard is transgender, or just Laurel Hubbard is trans.
So, trans is an adjective. We could have a noun like athlete, so Laurel Hubbard, transgender athlete, or we could just say Laurel Hubbard is transgender. Okay, let's move on to our summary slide. Okay, we're talking about the Tokyo Olympics. They're everywhere at the moment. We did another broadcast on the Tokyo Olympics recently, right, Catherine?
We did, talking about the effect of climate change on the temperature in Tokyo and the result on athletes potentially. So just click the link to watch.
Just click the link to watch. Great. Okay, Catherine, let's have a look at your second headline today, please.
And we're in Canada now with CBC. The headline, polarising topic. Sides grapple with fairness of trans women competing on female teams.
Polarising. Very divisive. Catherine, tell us about polarising, please.
Yes, it's spelled P-O-L-A-R-I-S-I-N-G if you're in the UK. If you speak American English, it's spelt with a Z as it is in this headline, but the Z is an S in British English. So if something's polarizing, it's very, very divisive. Let's talk about the word polar to start with. Now, Tom, if you go as far north as you possibly can on this planet, where will you be?
I suppose I would be at the North Pole.
You would. And if I go as far south as I possibly can, I will be at the South Pole. And can we go further apart?
We could not physically be any further apart. Okay, we'd be as far apart as it's possible to be, and I guess this is where we get the figurative use, right?
Exactly that. So if you are at polar opposites, which is a common expression, you have completely different opinions. There's nothing you can agree on about this particular topic. So if something is a polarizing topic, it makes people really have very, very, very different opinions. And this is an example of Laurel Hubbard and competing on a female team when her sex at birth was male. People have very, very strong opinions, very different opinions. So this is a very polarizing topic.
And we can use the verb as well, can't we? To polarize, like a topic has the power to polarize people,
yes,
to put them at different positions. Can you give us any more examples of when we could use polarizing or polarize?
Well, I mean, there's many. We often see it in politics. So you could say that Donald Trump was a polarizing character. He polarized lots of people with his opinions. He had lots of polarizing policies. And we can talk about current situations and arguments over, COVID and the vaccine and the lockdown. All those are very polarizing topics. Recently we had Brexit, and there was very strong and very different opinions about Brexit. So in politics and in your personal life, we can talk about things that polarize people. It means it makes them have really, really different opinions.
Brilliant. Okay, let's not polarize. Let's bring everything together and let's have our summary slide for this piece of Lexis, please. So, arguments in sports can be polarizing. They can create strong opinions. We have another news review about an argument in sport, right?
We do. This was all about Nike and advertising. To find out what happened, just click the link.
Just click that link. All right. Excellent. Catherine, let's have a look at your third piece of language for today, please.
Yes, we are now going to India. We're in the Indian Express, and the headline is Controversy Brews Over Transgender Weightlifter Set to Create History at Tokyo Olympics.
Okay, bruise becomes stronger. Catherine, what can you tell us about the word bruise?
It's a verb, B-R-E-W-S, and if something brews, it becomes stronger. Now, Tom, you are fond of a cup of tea, aren't you?
I have a cup of tea right now, yes.
And how do you like your tea? Weak or strong?
I mean, it depends. Sometimes I leave the tea bag in to brew.
To brew, that's right. So if you make a cup of tea and you leave your tea bag or your tea leaves in the water for a long time, the tea brews for longer and longer, gets stronger and stronger. So brewing is the process of creating tea, or we also use it with beer. You can brew beer, the alcoholic drink, and the longer you leave it, the stronger it gets. Now bring that back to the idea of arguments, controversial topics. If a controversy is brewing, it's getting stronger.
And I guess when we make beer or when we make tea, we add heat as well, don't we? So we could say it's getting more heated as well.
It can be, yes. I think you definitely need heat when you make tea and a little bit of warmth for beer. But yes, it's that idea of getting hotter and stronger and developing over time. So we use it in everyday English for negative things, controversy, arguments, disagreements. When you know that they're coming and they're getting stronger and people are talking about it and an argument's about to develop and explode, you get that feeling that it's coming. It's brewing.
Okay, fantastic. That's the verb to brew. And we also have a noun form, don't we, which is a bit more basic and slightly different.
Cup of tea. Let's have a brew.
Let's have a brew. Yeah, a brew just means a hot drink in the UK. So you could say, make me a brew, or it's not grammatically correct, but we always say, make us a brew, which just means
Make us a brew.
Go make me a cup of
Particularly
tea.
in the north of England. I think in the south less so, but make us a
particularly
brew.
in our homeland, hey, Catherine?
Yes,
Up in the north.
up north. Go home for a nice brew.
Okay, right, I'm going to go make a brew. While I do that, let's have that summary slide, please. Okay, Catherine, can we have a recap of today's vocabulary, please?
Yes, we started with trans, which means transgender. Then we had polarizing, meaning very divisive. And we finished on bruise, which means becomes stronger.
Fantastic. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, that's all from us today. Thanks for being here. See you next time, and goodbye.
Bye.